This episode of Inside EMS is brought to you by Lexipol, the experts in policy, training, wellness support, and grants assistance for first responders and government leaders. To learn more, visit lexipol.com. That's LEXIPOL.com. Well, it's Friday. Everybody knows what happens on Friday. Hopefully the summertime is going well as we now embark on going Inside EMS. I am your host, Chris Cebollero, and with me always to the chair to my right. It depends, I guess, how this edits, man, but you may be in the chair to the left when it comes to editing. But Kelly Grace and KG, we had Nancy sit in with us a couple weeks ago because you were on the EMS World Tour, and we're glad to have you back.
Glad to be back, man. It's been an eventful week for me. I had that rite of passage that all 50-something men have. I had my colonoscopy. Believe it or not, they did not find my head up there, nor did they find
I do not believe that.
They didn't find all the gum that I swallowed in elementary school that my teachers told me would never clear my system. So that was a lie. It turns out everything I was taught as a child is a lie. So.
Right, I don't know how to transition from that, so let's just talk about something else.
I tell you what, my EMS superpower is intact. I can fall asleep instantly. I can wake up instantly, totally lucid. No crazy Diprovan anesthesia gibberish or anything like that. I fell asleep immediately, woke up when they said, "Kelly, wake up." Done.
You are a Superman. You are a Superman.
I am. I'm telling you, man. It's a gift.
The man of the hour, too sweet to be sour. The ladies know you're the man with the power. But, so I was thinking about, as we prepare for shows, one of the things I was thinking about just this morning as we were getting ready to start is I haven't heard about Cecil the Combat Wombat in a bit. I know that we did a sequel, and I thought there was a third book supposed to come out.
There is 4,
is it out?
Actually.
Oh, so there's 2 more that I missed?
Yep.
What the heck's Cecil doing?
Thank you, Chris. I feel that so much, man. You need to get thee to Amazon Prime right now. Get yourself the Kindle editions and write glowing reviews.
Well, I want you to know that I knew that there were at least 2 Cecil books.
Okay.
So how many books do I have? Thank you very much. You don't even.
Okay. So I'm supposed to send you a signed book. Well, you know what? I'll do that. I will do that. I've got a stock of them from the last sci-fi from LibertyCon, and I will sign a copy of Random Synapses, my collection of short stories that has all the current Cecil stuff in it.
Well, bring it. As a matter of fact, when you talk about that, we are going to be together here in a couple weeks, along with our friends John Purrier and Chris Elbright.
Ebright, yeah.
Oh, have I been saying it wrong all those years? I apologize, man. I apologize for that. But
it's okay. I'll get him to call you Chris Cebollero.
Cerebrum. But we are going to speak at the Choctaw County EMS Conference, the inaugural.
It's the Star Life Rural EMS Conference in Durant, Oklahoma. I thought it was Grant. It was at the casino resort.
I think it's
either way. Look it up online. It's going to be fabulous. We're going to have they got the ringers there, and
I'm actually looking at the schedule.
Conference.
Let's see. Yeah. Kelly Grayson. You're not doing anything. Life, death, and everything in between.
Mm-hmm.
Dingers and stunners, airway control, and RSI. Yeah, what is dingers and stunners?
Dingers, stunners, and getting your bell rung. Treatment of concussions.
Oh, very good. And then life and death and everything in between. What the hell's that?
It's my keynote speech. I'm giving a couple of them.
How are you doing a keynote speech on the third day at 4:00 in the afternoon?
I'm doing two closing keynote speeches.
So I've got Ultimate Leadership, 10 Rules for Success from my book, The Rules I Had to Come Up With to Be a Good Leader. Ultimate Leadership, Strategic Leadership Excellence, which are the skills that you need to have to be a good leader. On Wednesday, I'll do servant leadership, which I believe is the most important, the foundational leadership style that we need to have. And this is a new course, only the second time I'm teaching it, Kelly. It's going to be self-mastery, becoming the best version of yourself. This is where we're going to talk about, self-sabotage. And this is where we're going to talk about developing self-confidence. And one of the things that we need to be able to learn is how do we master ourselves to get to a point of being the best that we can be. But how do we do that when our subconscious mind is screwing with us and making us fail because we've taught it to teach us to fail rather than taught it to teach us to be successful? So
Yeah,
I'm
looking forward to hearing from you, man. Yeah, you guys need to check out the Star Life EMS conference in southern Oklahoma. It's going to be the 15th through the 18th of this month. It's going to be a blast. You're going to have some great EMS speakers there and some great CE content. So check us out there.
Yep, very happy. So
speaking of EMS leadership, man, I got questions for you. I come to you with questions.
All right.
I was teaching I'm teaching a series of monthly CEs to a consortium of the local EMS agencies around here and in Franklin County, New York.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm preaching to the choir. I get 20 or so people at each one of these sessions. And I was talking about code choreography or pit crews, paramedics, and pushing drugs, what actually works in EMS resuscitation. And one of the guys in the class came up to me afterwards. He said, "Yeah, we still transport every code patient. We doing CPR all the way to the hospital." I'm like, "Why?" And he said, "Well, so and so, that the chief doesn't transport, or he still insists on transporting everyone." He said, "You know what? The people that really need to hear your lecture never come to these things."
Mm-hmm.
And you can't make a volunteer come to a continuing education course, but it occurs to me, I see that all the time. The people at EMS conferences that we speak to are the people that seek out continuing education. And the people that most need continuing education are also the ones least likely to seek it out. So, Chris, how do you motivate the unmotivatable? How do you avoid preaching to the choir and go out where the sinners are and teach them a better way?
I mean, there is so much to even think about of unpacking that. I think maybe just to talk about motivation in the sense of what can we really do with it. But Gandhi has great quotes, and he talks about become the change that you want to see. And you and I have talked about on this show that I believe that if the leaders above you aren't doing what they need to do, you still need to be able to be your best, and you need to set the standard. So the standard starts and ends with you. You talk about Gandhi, as a matter of fact, I was reading, a biography of his the other day, and I always do that stuff so I could pick up quotes and stories and things like that. And I want to tell you, remind me about Def Leppard. I want to tell you a Def Leppard story, which I think is that I'm going to add to my leadership talks.
Inside EMS, folks, the only place you can get references to Gandhi and Def Leppard in the same sentence.
But anyway, a mother came up to Gandhi and said, "Can you help my son? He's just eating too much sugar, and I need him to stop it. I'm worried about him." So Gandhi said, "Well, come back in 3 days." So the mother comes back in 3 days, and Gandhi says to the kid, "Stop eating sugar." And the mother looks at him and says, "Why couldn't we do that 3 days ago?" And he said, "Because I was still eating sugar." So he didn't want to be the hypocrite to say, but anyway, so that was a good story. But, to your point, when we start to think about this from the standpoint of living the vision and really kind of making the development, we have to be able to know that motivation is something we can give anyone. I can't motivate you, Kelly Grayson, to do anything. Motivation either comes from inside you, which is intrinsic, or it comes from outside you, something that's going to happen if you're motivated. Now, the only thing that I can do as a leader is I can develop an environment and break down the barriers within that environment that will allow you to become motivated.
Yeah.
Whether you choose to walk through that door or not is up to you. But as I now create an organization that the culture is positive. We're not going to talk about, I didn't let any of my supervisors talk about any employees or joke about them, or, you know, how we do, you know, how leaders and supervisors are always brutal about
Mhm.
that. Now, but to your point of saying we have leaders who are still stuck in the old days and they're not moving into tradition, there are those traditionalists of EMS leaders still exist. And I just had a conversation, you know, with one of those folks, you know, a few days ago or a couple of weeks ago. And it was really trying to get them to see how EMS has changed, you know, the earrings and the beards and you know, those types of things that they just will not embrace because they're trying to hang on to what we are used to from the past. Now, one of the challenges with that, Kelly, is we are seeing a newer workforce. Remember when we used to complain about the millennials, you know, 10, 15
Now we're
years
seeing the
ago?
Gen Z, the
Now
Zennials.
it's their kids that
Yeah.
are coming in and now changing the workforce again. And I was just thinking just the other day, we have become the baby boomers now as they now start to inch their way out of the workforce. You know, 10,000 baby boomers are retiring every day for the next 20 years. It's harder, right? So now,
Yeah.
as a leader, I believe in your leadership style. And, you know, we talked about servant leadership being a foundational style, but I still have to be able to polish the style to meet the needs of the new workforce. The
Yeah.
failure isn't motivation, Kelly. The failure is trying to hang on to what you believe is the right way to do something.
Yeah.
And
Well,
because,
you know, people,
yeah,
people,
go ahead.
there's a type that complain about you kids these days, and they don't realize they're still yet to embrace medicine these days. They're stuck in the past on just about everything. I see young kids, new EMTs in the class, these 20 somethings or younger than that, you know, 19, 20-year-old kids. They're taking these classes and learning. It's the old people in the squad that have been, you know, supposedly the senior leaders of the squad, that you can't get there. And you're right, it's a failure of leadership. The leaders of the squad, the chiefs, don't actually realize what they're doing. But I can't help but think a great deal of it is because of the way they have experienced continuing education in the past. You
What do you
know,
mean?
and
What do you mean
that's
by that?
either pencil whipped or someone got up and droned on and on endlessly reciting the bullet points on a PowerPoint presentation. And it was about as stimulating as watching paint dry. No science into it, no salesmanship of the material. In other words, continuing education has long been considered in EMS by the people in EMS to be a chore, something that you got to do to stay certified, not something that will actually help you grow and become a better EMT. And the fault of that has been on the people who delivered the EMS education. You know, the people, the uninspired, lazy instructors who think that you can just plug in a PowerPoint or say, this is the way we're doing it now, and not create any buy-in. I can't help but think that is their concept of what EMS education is like. So, and they're not likely to seek it out. If I thought that's what EMS education was, I wouldn't seek it out either. It's a waste of my time.
You know, I think that that's just a philosophy. And one of the things that we need to be able to start to think about is, you know, just like EMS leadership, where is the concept of giving a good presentation coming from? Unless you're part of NAMC, unless you're part of, you know, that you've had an instructor methodology course. But if you, once you have years of experience, is where you can finally teach
Yeah.
people and motivate people. But here's the realization, and I say this all the time in my lectures, is, you know, they say that knowledge is power. I'm going to tell you, knowledge isn't power
What is it?
if you don't use it.
True.
Right? So when we
True.
sit in a conference and we, you know, we pontificate on our words of wisdom, how many of those people who are listening to us will actually take what we're saying and try to implement it in their stations? Will try to implement it on their ambulances. Will try to implement it with their peers. Really, what do you think the percentage of that is? Now, I don't have an answer, Kelly, but I do think that that's one of the challenges, that they come and they watch it like a TV show and then
Mm-hmm.
they just switch to the next show. I
Yeah.
don't know that we really have to be able to develop calls of action And I'll say in my talks a lot, I challenge you. I challenge you now that when you go home, you take one piece of information that I've given you here today and you try to do something with it, knowing that, because I've even said things like, when we talk about motivation, I've even said things where I've taught vision classes, right? And I said, you've got to develop a professional vision. If we can't see where we're going, we certainly don't know how to get
Yeah.
there. And really, it's that drive towards the vision that gives us that motivation. You know, my daughter right now, Angela, she's 27 years old. She wants to start working out, and she says, I'm just not motivated, Dad. I said, it's not that you're not motivated, it's that you don't believe in what you're trying to do. It's the desire that gives you motivation. And you have lack of desire. You don't believe in this working out thing as much as you think you do. So it's easier for you to make excuses. It's easier for you to procrastinate. Procrastination is an excuse to fail, right? But we're not lazy. We just don't believe in the vision. And that's the
Yeah.
problem. When let me put it this way, Kelly, and I know your answer is probably yes. Have you ever wanted something so bad? Have you ever wanted something that was so meaningful to you that no one was going to stop you and no one was going to get in your way from achieving that?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
what was the difference for you from just a regular goal? I mean, what was it about that, that vision that made it so desirable for you?
Being the vision of myself I had in my head rather than the one I see in the mirror. My whole weight loss thing, and I'm creeping up on overall 108 pounds lost, but close to 100 pounds lost since last April. Yeah, I mean, I believe in the vision, and that's what keeps me going. And when I'm in that pool, and I'm sucking wind, and my limbs are burning, and I'm it usually kicks in around about lap 30. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, I hate this. And, so I focus on the next 10 laps, get to 40. And when I get to 40, I say, get to 50. And by the time I'm at 70, I'm like, okay, I can do this. I still have gas in the tank. And I'm trying to hit 120, 130 laps in the pool in a session. Hadn't done it yet, but I will. And the thing that keeps me going, the thing that reminds me of the vision is when I get out of the pool and I go step on the scale, and it's a steady downward trend. And people like you tell me I look different on the camera. So
I mean, yeah, we were just talking about it before we started. I mean, you were 1 pound, 2 pounds away from hitting the 200 mark. And you said the first time in 15 years that you've been there. So cheers to that.
yeah.
But you know what, Kelly? You don't need to be in the pool anymore. I think you've lost enough weight. I don't think you need to lose anymore.
Shut up! You shut your mouth.
But you see what I'm saying, though?
Yeah, I know.
But I can't derail you because that vision and that desire is so strong.
Okay.
See, that's the difference from the things that we do. Just to say I want to go to the gym, that doesn't give you that desire. What you said, I think, in this exchange that I thought was very, very important, and I don't want to gloss over that for you, was I see myself in the mirror of what I want to look like, right? That's the vision that you're working towards.
Yeah.
It's not just to say, I want to be in a size 40 pants, or it's not in the thing to say, I want to weigh 200 pounds. It's the thought of saying, this is what I picture for myself. So now when we start to think about motivation, the desire that you've built up is what motivates you to do something different. When we think about the habit cue is made up of three things, right? And this is how habits developed. You have the cue, or the habit loop, I apologize. You have the cue. And the cue is something that makes you start the habit. So for me, I get up every morning at 5 a.m. to go to the gym. The cue for me is the alarm that goes off. Next comes in the routine of the habit. So the way that it is when my alarm goes off at 5 a.m., I get up, I grab my keys, I automatically start my car regardless of the time of day or the season, which tells me that I have 15 minutes to get out of the house before the car goes off. And then the reward is, as I start to see myself losing weight, as I start to put on more mass, that's what reinforces the habit loop, right? but
I got you.
the desire is what makes that motivation happen. So
Yeah.
going back to your comment, I know this was a long way to get there,
Yeah.
but going back to your comment of how do you motivate people, they have to be able to see that change is needed. In the absence of that, and the traditionalists of EMS leaders, they don't see that they have to change.
Yeah. Well, I think I do a good job of selling the material and convincing them of the need to adopt their practice in the classroom. I think what's missing, I probably will focus more on is creating disciples and acolytes to go out and spread that word to their squads and motivate them enough to go out and say, look, each one of you go back to your own squads and teach someone else this, or bring them to the next class so more people can hear this message. So we still don't have in 2024 people, treating cardiac arrest like it was 1994, and that sort of thing. So yeah, there's a call to action right there for me, is to kind of be more of a motivator and try to get other people to spread the message as well. It's just, this is more difficult. You could say that when you're working with paid EMTs, it's more easier to get them to come to the classes, but that's truly not motivation. That's compliance. You got to be here. I'm the boss. You're going to listen, and you're going to take a test afterwards. But I'm not sure that really changes their practice. I'm long familiar with the collar wise EMT. When I was training retrievers for a living, if you don't do your job with an e-collar correctly, the dog becomes collar wise. In other words, they act differently when the electronic collar is off. If you do it right, they don't realize the collar is on, and you change their behavior totally, and it doesn't matter whether they're wearing a collar or not. So there's a whole lot of collar wise EMTs out there that do one thing when someone is supervisory is looking, and they do something totally different when no one else is around. So we gotta, how to do that with people that legitimately don't have to be there is the struggle. And I guess the only way you can do that is with the salesmanship.
But I think that the challenge too is that when has anybody taught the science of leadership to our EMS leaders?
Nobody.
You know
And
what I
that's
mean?
they think that the qualification is being around longer than anyone else. And that's not just a problem in volunteer EMS, it's a problem in EMS as a whole.
And I think that that's the challenge, is the fact that it's different sets of skills at different levels in your career. And one of the things that you've got to be able to think about is the leaders have to realize that what they're doing may not be the best for the organization. I mean, they may have good intent, but we really have to think about the science of that. The true measurement of leadership success is how engaged, satisfied, and productive the workforce is. And if I want to be successful as a leader, everything that I do is based on the employee's engagement, how well they enjoy coming to work, and how well they deliver the service. I don't see patients. The workforce goes out and sees the patients. The workforce are the ones who wear the emblems of the organization. We have to be able to give them the knowledge, skills, and ability for them to be successful. Because any problem that I've ever dealt with in my career has to do with, it doesn't have to do with schedules. It doesn't have to do with budget. It has to do with personnel issues. It has to do with their employee engagement and satisfaction. I want to stab my partner in the eye with a pencil. I can't work this shift. I don't make enough money. I don't have the equipment to do my job. So when we now start to think about and focus on the workforce as being the most important component to the success of the organization, when the workforce grows, the organization grows. When the organization grows, the organization is successful. And I was just writing this for a class that I have to do in the fall, is that I lost my train of thought. Darn, it was awesome. Is that we have to
Motivating.
we have to remember that we have to be able to engage the workforce into growing to their next level of success. But that starts with the vision. So in my new role as the head of operations for Quick Medic, we're using community paramedics in a lot of different roles. But one of the things we did is we created a vision, and the vision basically has three components with some flowery words. Is one, we want to set the gold standard for mobile healthcare solutions. Two, we want to be able to become national leaders in our space. And 3, we want to become the employer of choice. Now, those are 3 big components of a vision.
Mm-hmm.
The next component of that is, how do you make each of those work?
Yeah.
How do you set a gold standard? How do you become national leaders? And how do you create and become the employer of choice? And we are far from that vision ever becoming a reality. Kelly, I got to tell you, if I set a path for that, we're talking about maybe 5 years to make that vision a reality. If it happens sooner, I am going to be ecstatic. But now comes the science of making that work. How the heck can I say inside my organization that we are going to be the employer of choice if I treat my employees like crap, if I pay them like crap, if I don't give them the equipment they need to do their job, if I don't make an environment where they can grow? How successful will that be for me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
it's not
I
going
will
to be
say this.
successful.
Let me give you this. I believe in my heart of hearts, and I teach all my leadership clients. I teach all the leadership organizations, all the organizations that I teach leadership to. Your vision statement is the most important document inside your organization, and it amazes me when leaders in the organization don't know their own vision statement. That means that
Yeah.
they're not following that thing. But I'm babbling a little bit. Let me give
But
you.
no,
Yeah.
but we're back to the thing that we talk about all the time in this podcast is the difference between management and leadership. The leadership being, inspiring personal growth among your people. And when your people grow, the organization grows as well. Rather than, you're talking about my job's not my job's not the budgeting and the scheduling and the discipline and everything. It's helping my people be the best they can be.
And let me
And that's
pause right there, though. Hold your thought. If I'm able to give them the empowerment, they're helping me manage the budget. They're helping me manage the schedule. They're helping me manage the resources. But go ahead.
No, that's exactly it. It creates a movement. You talk about your inspiration being Gandhi and the books you read. Mine's a little more prosaic. It's Ted Lasso. Have you ever watched Ted Lasso?
Yeah.
But
Be curious.
motivation. Yeah, be curious, not judgmental, and motivation and creating a culture is what that show's all about. And even professional athletic coaches look at this show and go, hey, there's something to learn here. And I guess that's the take-home message I need to get from this, is that I need to be more than just a good teacher. I need to create other teachers to go out and spread that message as well. But hey, that's what we think. We'd like to hear what you think. How do you motivate the unmotivated? How do you get the slugs at your agency or your service to step up their game and get their practice up to where it needs to be, even if they're not paid to do so? We'd like to hear your thoughts at the show at ems1.com. And for myself and co-host Chris Cebollero, thanks for tuning in to Inside EMS. We're going to catch you guys next week.